Good afternoon, Suidlanders. How are you? We trust that you are well. I'd like to begin by apologizing for two related things. Firstly, that this video wasn't done on Friday, and generally that I haven't been making videos for the past few weeks. And secondly, for being dressed like I'm on a surfing safari. And the reason for both is one, and that is that I've been quite ill. And on Friday afternoon, I think I'm a lot better than I was. I wasn't so much sick on Friday as like recuperating. I don't know, weak. You know, sometimes after an illness you feel weaker than you did before. And today I'm recuperating still, and I couldn't bear the thought of putting on a cool, crisp white shirt and a cool jacket and losing any body temperature. The thought of picking up a little chill or something like that and being out of sorts again tomorrow is just not acceptable at all. It's out of the question. So without further ado, let's get on with Suidlanders' week in review for what would have been Friday the 19th, and we're now making it the Sunday the 21st. I've got something strange coming up on my screen here. I don't know why they wanted to tell me that. Okay, let's go to our list of events from the past week and 2 days. We discovered on Saturday the 13th of May that there may be a prepaid electricity crisis, that there are many meters around the world, the numbers vary, that are in the same sort of situation as computers were in approaching Y2K, namely that computers and computer systems, programs from the 70s, 80s and 90s had not had a provision in them for a 4-digit number, for the years. So they only had enough provision to record the 31st of the 12th month of the 99th year. And that was going to get all messed up when it became the first of the 2000th year. And the meters have got a similar problem apparently, and they may not work from the 12th of November next year, as if we don't have enough to worry about. The JSE continues to decline. SA may face power cuts of up to 32 hours, says Eskom, as revealed by the Sunday Independent of Sunday the 14th of May. Then we learned that in a desperate attempt to limit the blackouts, the government is going ahead full steam with a plan to limit by remotely controllable meters warm water usage in South Africa's domestic households, as reported on Network 24. One of South Africa's biggest gold miners, AngloGold Ashanti, is moving its primary stock exchange listing and its domicilium citandi, its executandi, out of South Africa. You know, when you sign a contract, you'll often see that Latin phrase, domicilium citandi et executandi. It means the residence that is cited, the residence that I claim to be my primary residence, and the residence from which I function. So my real residence in name and in fact. So it will effectively no longer be a South African company. The German foreign minister issued a warning to us over South Africa's relationship with Russia, concerning the alleged sale or provision to Russia of arms via the Lady R, the ship that was docked in Simonstown for 5 days in December. So Annalena Baerbock told us that we're very naughty kids, but the simple reality is that what the ANC did was natural and inevitable. Not in a million years would South Africa risk its relationship with BRICS, implicitly through Russia, by risking its relationship with Russia at this historical juncture of history. Nobody would jeopardize the opportunity that BRICS is promising at this time. We heard that a huge ammunition depot and arsenal, weapons storage facility in Khmelnytsky, western Ukraine, had been hit over last weekend. And very shortly after that, it came out that what had been struck was the well-known British donation of, I think, 105 or 120 millimeter tank tank rounds that had been given to Russia, rounds employing depleted uranium. Now, as many of you will know from news reports over years and years, the use of depleted uranium by NATO and the Americans in Kosovo, in the Yugoslav breakup, and in Syria, and especially southern Iraq, has proven that those depleted uranium weapons contaminate, they poison the environment, and people fall very ill. The lead World Health Organization doctor in southern Iraq estimated that 48% of the local population fell ill, and children especially apparently fall ill with what they call neural blastomas, very severe illness because of depleted uranium. So what has happened is that the Russians warned the British against donating this type of ammunition to Ukraine. They said, don't do it. It's a bridge too far. You are really going to open a can of worms. In any case, the British did. The Russians struck that arsenal with hypersonic missiles, blew it all up. It was the most magnificent plume of smoke that you've ever seen in your life. It looked like a small nuclear explosion, although let's be clear, depleted uranium is not radioactive like a nuclear weapon is. It's toxic. It's poisonous. A whole different thing altogether. Nevertheless, this thing went up like it had been a nuclear bomb, you know, and now it is dispersing in the surrounding countryside. So thank you very much to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Europe is now contaminated by depleted uranium. And many, many, many people are going to be grievously ill for decades and decades to come. Then we heard about the Russians striking another depot. Then we heard about the Russians striking US donated, I'm having a brain freeze moment, Patriot missile systems. I say missile system because it's composed of very often two launchers, a command and control vehicle, and a satellite tracking, whatever you call it, the radar unit. There are some contradictory stories, but we do know from video evidence that at least one Patriot missile unit fired off all 32 of its Patriot air defense missiles at incoming Russian missiles, but they were unable to prevent themselves being struck. And apparently it may be that as many as 5 of the launcher units were destroyed. And there is abundant evidence, not conclusive, but abundant, of multiple units having been destroyed, but nobody's dead certain how many exactly. Right. We see continued initiatives by various countries to join BRICS in advance of the meetings, the BRICS meetings that will happen in June, in August, and I believe that there may be a follow-up or a small meeting of some description in September. So in advance of those meetings, countries are lining up, queuing up to join BRICS. Excuse me. An international study has revealed that 8 out of 10, actually 81%, of grade 4 pupils in South Africa, so what you may know as standard 2, what I think of as standard 2, when I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, can't read for meaning. Can't read for meaning. The Minister of Labour has imposed new targets, racial targets for employment equity. And that is going to mean the loss of about 500,000 white, Indian and coloured jobs, where whites, Indians and coloureds are, according to the new law, overrepresented in certain businesses. I'm going through my list here and just chucking out anything that seemed like a good idea at the time, but perhaps not so brilliant now. The CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have quietly begun destroying all Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccines in the United States of America. And the suggestion is that it's because they're aware that the vaccines are unhealthy. We can't say conclusively. China has begun to buy less millies, corn as the Americans call it, from the United States of America, and to replace it by purchases of millies from South Africa. We're beginning to hear rumors of 2 weeks without Eskom. Of course, by now we all know, we Suidlanders know, that those rumors are greatly exaggerated. The likelihood or the probability is not that great, but people are so afraid that they are taking it very seriously just in case. A minimum of stage 5 for most of the winter is extremely high. So for the majority of the next 3.5 months, we're now in at the 21st of May, so call it June, July and August, the most severe winter months, we will be at stage 5 and possibly stage 8. We see in the USA numerous states making gold and silver legal tender. In other words, you can walk into a shop and according to the laws of that state, the shop is unable by law to refuse you from paying in gold or silver. And obviously this is a reaction to many people's perceptions of the threat of central bank digital currencies and of the declining power of the dollar, or the potential for the dollar to become vulnerable. It may be an overreaction, but nevertheless it is indicative. I believe now that it's 12 states, unless I'm mistaken, that have passed laws in recent weeks and months making gold and silver legal tender. I beg your pardon. Julius Malema is jumping on the bandwagon concerning the Eskom crisis, calling for white electrical engineers to assist in resolving South Africa's national electricity crisis. And to be very clear, he's talking about the white engineers who lost their jobs in favor of the many more black engineers who replaced them and who are overseeing the current debacle. Can you believe it? We learned from Europe, from very scholarly academic sources, that it is now proven beyond any dispute that Moderna patented sequences of proteins that had been identified as cancer-causing, cancer-generating proteins. I don't fully understand this stuff. I'm just regurgitating what I read. I have the whole formula in front of me here, but it means very little to me. In 2016, Moderna patented those proteins and then included them in their vaccinations. Proven, indisputable, not anti-vax, no controversy, no contentiousness. If anybody's in any doubt, they are welcome to search the following. Frontiersin.org. Frontiers. It's the frontiers of virology. Frontiersin.org. And if you search against that, maybe articles, oncology, cancer, proteins, you'll get it easily enough. Right. Guinea will improve its relationship with Moscow. And as I said to somebody, you know, Suidlanders has emphasized this. A small little country like Guinea becoming pally with Moscow is not the biggest development all by itself. It's not that significant. In fact, it's not newsworthy. However, it is another brick in the wall. It is yet another example, such as we've seen so many in recent months, of little countries, medium-sized countries, larger, more powerful countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia, and of course China, cozying up more and more and more closely to one another, abandoning the use of the dollar in their trade, and in many cases openly flouting US sanctions. Again, just in the past couple of days, we heard that Venezuela was going to abandon the dollar. Venezuela is a country in South America, and it possesses the world's largest proven oil resources. So the oil that it has in the ground, more than any other country in the world. And as I commented to some people, if the president of Venezuela knows anything about the Monroe Doctrine, which is the American policy that anything that happens in the Western Hemisphere, it's a policy. That is to say, anything that happens in the Americas, South America, the Caribbean, Central America, and North America, the US believes it is entitled to act regardless of anything else, including international law, in its perceived interests. So if I was them, I wouldn't be in too much of a rush, because they'll kill every man, woman, and child to stop that happening. They'll start a civil war in Venezuela that will make Vietnam look cute, long before they allow a country of the Americas to abandon the dollar, particularly the country with the world's largest oil reserves, selling the stuff in Russian rubles or Chinese yuan or Venezuelan. I think they use the bolivar, not the peso. I'm not sure. Tehran seeks an energy partnership with Moscow, and this is very, very important because it effectively allows Tehran to circumvent, under the cover of the present crisis and the kind of open hostility, Western sanctions. In other words, if they cozy up to Russia, and Russia's happy for them to be cozying up to them, there's a very good chance that Russia will ignore the fact that it will be quite happy to provoke the USA and the West under present circumstances by providing Iran with whatever it likes. Upgrading of its military, help with the uranium enrichment process. So it could be back to normal, resumption of normal service in Iran in the next few years. And that, of course, is going to cause Israel to go absolutely berserk. And the very famous Israel lobby of the Congress that dominates the Congress, Donald Trump once famously said, "It is true that the Israel lobby rules the US Congress," or words to similar effect. And I'm very happy about that. He's very pro-Israel. Whether you're pro-Israel or not, the point is that that Israel is going to go berserk. The Israel lobby in Congress is going to go absolutely berserk. And I believe that it will have a profound effect upon the 2024, the November, first Tuesday in November of next year, United States presidential elections. In my opinion, it's going to turn them into even more of a fiasco. And as I said to somebody, man, this is Roman. You know, this is like reading about the decline of the Roman Empire and the bizarre things that the rulers of Rome got up to in those times of decline. It was madness. China, I beg your pardon, I thought I'd press pause there. China receives its first yuan settled, so settled, the deal was settled in yuan, or yuan if you prefer, or renminbi is actually the correct term. Liquefied natural gas cargo from, goodness me, I've lost it. Just give me a United Arab Emirates, that's right. And again, 65,000 barrels. Not something to write home about all by itself, but it's another brick in the wall. Somebody has claimed Eskom's megawatt park on Google and renamed it Eskom Mega Gravy Train Park. I thought this was nonsense. I checked it out and it's true. Oh dear me. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for the past now 9 days. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye, and God bless all of you, and I hope to be well, 100% well very soon, so that I can get back to doing lots of international interviews. I've got a nice one on Tuesday, this Tuesday night, with Vin Dog Radio. Vinny of Vin Dog Radio, and making lots of videos. Thank you. Cheers.